Today's High Performance Podcast is brought to you by Josh Phegan Digital. It's where you'll find our revolutionary blueprint course. There's only one place that you can go from zero to hero over a weekend by watching the incredible blueprint. It's everything you'll need to be that $1 million agent. Prospecting, listing, negotiation, and growth. Broken up into short 15-minute pieces, skip to the content you need now or watch from the beginning to end. Only on Josh Phegan Digital. Welcome to High Performance, the podcast featuring Josh Phegan and Alexander Phillips. Alexander, one of the great conversations, and, Nick Dowling, the former CEO and now chairman of Jealous Craig, said to me, Josh, what we plan to do is to become the number one in each of our chosen markets. And I was thinking a lot about that for you, about, what does it take to actually become the number one in your chosen market? And I think that the famous quote that we've got with you is that, you got to make sure that your marketplace is big enough for your aspirations. But you made a decision very early on that you wanted to have Bronte as kind of your chosen market. How did you decide that Bronte was going to be your chosen market? And then what have you done to continue to build market momentum until you get to that number one position?
Hi, Josh. Thanks again for having me on. If I wind it back, 15, 20 years ago, but by chance I sort of fell into that marketplace. It wasn't something that I said I definitely want to be there, but I just fell into it. Then, it snowballed from there. But, I look at really, what we did really well, and I suppose we're very lucky. We've gone through life cycle, like the full life cycle of many clients. And what I mean by that is we didn't start at selling, back then would have been a $2 million house, which is now probably $8 million, and go, well, we just want to sell those high-end houses. And, that's where we want to end up at. We started at the, 1 and 2 bedroom unit market, and, those people then bought semis and bought houses and bought bigger houses and downsize again. And you're sort of going up and down in their whole price range and life cycle. And I look at it's really the little 1%ers that we did with every property that we listed and how hard we worked on them. And what I mean by that is, running, the best campaigns possible. Like a couple of examples, there's 2 houses that I sold in Waverley and Bronte on the same weekend, and one of them was a house of the week on the Domain front cover. So I got 300 magazines from Domain delivered to the office, and I handwrote notes on them and dropped them to all of our contacts in the area that we're looking at selling in the next 12 months. And then that property went to auction. One of them went for $1 million over reserve, and then the just listed, the just sold calls, the cold calling off the back of it, and the maintaining of the database and giving all those people relevant information that we did for that sale, and then we do that for every single sale that we do. So we're always front of mind for people, because they know that when we're calling, we're giving them a piece of information or market forecast, and we've done that continually for the last 20 years, and we do that for every price range, apartments, houses, and just from that, and being always at the front of people's minds, you start to create huge momentum, because you're continually listing and selling a lot and making all those calls and doing open houses, doing letterbox drops. It's just doing it intensely for every single property that you list and sell. And we've got people that we're selling for at the moment that I used to cold call Bronte as a suburb 20 years ago that we put on our database 20 years ago. Now they're listing with us.
The simplicity of your databasing is that if you list one, let's say for example it's in Smith Street, you'll just go into the database and literally go search for Smith Street and see who else in that street and call them. And off the back of that, if you think Jones Street and West Street are similar, you'll also go back and you'll just go and call those people. It's that easy, right, to actually start to think about the data that you've got, and you're building it over a period of time. But then once you actually build the data, do something with it. And what we see is that agents have got these huge databases, but they have very low levels of relationship with those people in that database, whereas you've concentrated on having a smaller, tighter database, but a high level of relationship with those people, where the relevancy is driving the frequency of those communications. How important is it for people to do the detail, like a neighbour walks through an open home and goes, oh, I'm a neighbour, to then find out, well, where are they a neighbour in that street or in that surrounding area?
That's a common mistake with agents. I'm a neighbour, which street do you live in or what number? Then you all of a sudden they're in your database. So, that, and you're making notes on them and making sure that, you go back to the office and they're entered into the database, and then next time a property's listed and sold in that street or the surrounding streets, you've called them, and then all of a sudden the relationship's there. So, that's what I think, where in this day and age as well, it's very easy to get contacts and contact details and make sure that you're keeping in touch with them.
Is it true that the average length of a phone call with you when you're ringing someone about a listing or a sales result could be less than a minute?
Yes.
And so when you start to think about that, highly relevant, that's driving the frequency of the communication. You're consistent around what it is that you do. But when it comes to getting to the listing presentation, it should either be uncontested or you should have a really good shot at it, even if they bring in a couple of agents, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And that's the whole motion, is about making sure that you're consistent in those actions.